Yes, you're watching NTV Weekend Edition, and yes, we are here for a special exclusive live interview with the Deputy President coming from his official residence here in Karen. We're going to go through a number of things, and thank you very much, Bwana DP, for welcoming us yet again to your residence here.
Karibu sana Joe Ageyo and your team. As always, you're welcome.
Asante sana, and you know, this is coming just a few days after you were one of the last 4 men standing after that exercise at the Bomas of Kenya. Okay. So I guess it's a good point to say congratulations for making it.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Yes, I think one would wonder, how long have you wanted to be president of Kenya?
Well, like everything else, by the way, I came into politics not by design. I just found myself there. One thing led to another, and I found myself in the middle of it. I thought I would work with it, and so far, it's given me an opportunity to serve, and it's been a wonderful moment serving.
At what point did you think, maybe I should leave Kenya?
Of course, when, with time, you find that you have actually something you can offer your country. And in 2006, 2005, 2006, it's the first time I offered myself to run for president. And of course, it didn't materialize in that election in 2007. We went through a process, and in that process, I wasn't the candidate. I decided to support somebody else in 2007. In 2013, I also stepped forward again after a lot of evaluation, consultation, looking at the situation as it was that time. Again, I decided that I would support somebody else. And of course, in this election, I think I am now prepared enough.
What do you say to people who say the DP has been campaigning for the last 4 years, that you've actually spent the last, well, we could call it 4 years since 2017, just after the election, campaigning to be president?
Well, if you can watch my clips all that time, I didn't say that I was running for president. I was doing what this office demands of me. Many people can construe it to mean anything. But of course, I had responsibilities. I went to launch a road here, a water project there, a CDF project here, and did what I did. Let's say, for example, there is absolutely no difference between what I did 2013, 2017, from what I did 2018 to now.
But right after the handshake, I remember you saying something to the effect that tutaunda serikali ya Mamaboga. That came around 2018.
Well, I think that came much later. Of course, the Mamaboga thing is not anything new to me. I have always worked with grassroots people. I have always participated in programs that uplifted other people. I have grown up that way, you know, and it's basically, it's informed by my background. You know, I came from that background. I came from a simple background, and I have a lot of passion in trying to work with other people to see how their lives can be better.
A lot of things have changed for the number of times that we've had this conversation, and I like to ask you about you and your boss many times I come, because I mean, you're still the deputy president, and you tell us that many times. Where would you say that stands now?
But because that's true.
Especially because right now your boss is supporting someone else for the presidency. Where does that relationship stand today?
I would have preferred, Joe, that we discuss my candidature. But because you've asked, my candidature has nothing to do with Uhuru Kenyatta. When I decided to support Uhuru Kenyatta, and I have said this before, when I decided to support Uhuru Kenyatta, it was a decision I made, and I didn't give him any conditions. I did not expect of him to do anything. I did not, for example, tell him that I'm supporting you this time round, you can support me the next time. I did not do that. It's him who offered that because you are supporting me, I'm going to support you. He's an adult. I'm sure he can decide, he can change his mind. That's perfectly in order for me. And the rest is history. He is supporting somebody else like any other Kenyan. There are millions of Kenyans supporting either side of this divide. And that's perfectly in order as far as I'm concerned.
You know, what would be puzzling to many people, Bwana DP, is the fact that you have said, I mean, pursuant to that executive order of 2020, that he took your job and gave it to someone else. When is the last time you were really deputy president in the true definition of that role in the Constitution?
I think post-handshake, of course, things changed post-handshake. And clearly, my influence as deputy president, my roles, my input in government, significantly was in our first term. Of course, in our second term, with the handshake, it became a lot
What
different.
was left?
It became a lot different.
What was left? Like, what are the functions that you have still been performing?
The functions that remained was maybe something to do with dealing with the counties, making sure that the IBEC roles that are in the law, the advice once in a while that was expected of me, which I gave. Once in a while, assignments here and there, which were given to me. And of course, being a public officer, I can figure out what else I can do as I wait for other assignments from my boss. And I did exactly that. Worked with many of the other public servants, worked with many of the other politicians in the public space, you know, profiled what we were doing, and did what a deputy president would do.
But why are you still holding that office if you're not able to perform all the roles? I think even that's a question that the president himself has asked.
Why shouldn't I?
I mean, if you're not able to perform the role...
I was elected by the people of Kenya.
But you're no longer able to perform it for whatever reason. We still pay you to do it.
Exactly. You know, Joe, I think the flip side is, why hasn't William Ruto been assigned roles of deputy president? Maybe you should ask that the right person.
And I will. I hope to get a chance to do that. But what I can ask you now...
You've been trying that chance for the last 4 years. You have.
Well, I mean, you granted me the interview. That's why I came here. But the question I'm asking Bwana DP is a question of conscience. I mean, if you have been hired by the Kenyan people to do a certain job, and for whatever reason you are not able to do it, wouldn't it be a good thing to go back to the Kenyan people and say, you gave me this job, you pay me for it, but I can't do it because I have not been allowed to do it, and therefore I can serve in other responsibilities. Isn't that a fair position for someone to take?
Two things, Joe. There are people who wanted me to do exactly that. They thought they would frustrate me out of this office. And I would never allow them to succeed in frustrating me out of this office. That's number one. Number two, they have tried to peddle this story that, William Ruto has not done his duties in accordance with the Constitution. I have asked them, and I will ask them on this forum, which responsibility, which duty which assignment was assigned to William Ruto that he has not discharged, right? So that's the question that they need to answer me. You know, you cannot tell me that I need to resign because I have not discharged the responsibility of the deputy president. Which assignment is outstanding that was assigned to me by the president or by the law or by the constitution that I have not discharged?
Do you sleep?
To the best of my knowledge, every assignment, whether it is assignment by the law, whether it is assignment by the constitution, I have discharged those responsibilities. And any assignment that has been given to me by my boss, I have discharged it, and I dare say, to the best of my ability and in the best way possible. So there is absolutely no reason why anybody would ask me to do anything or to act in any other manner than I have acted.
Wouldn't the reason be that you're unable to perform those roles, but you still hold the office?
How was I unable? Has anybody told you we assigned William Ruto this and he did not do it?
You've said that you have been unable because they have been given to someone else.
No, I'm saying, but that has been done. But has any assignment been given to me that I have not discharged?
Do you think perhaps that the framers of our constitution should have made it easier for the president to fire his deputy in case there are irreconcilable differences such as what we have now?
I don't think so.
Because it is dysfunctionality, isn't it?
I don't think so. I think what the framers of the constitution did is exactly the right thing. That when Kenyans decide to elect a deputy president, yeah, and Kenyans were very clear. If they wanted a deputy president to be appointed and fired, they would have done so. But Kenyans decided that they want a deputy president elected together on the same ticket with a president. And that deputy president should serve and cannot be fired by anybody. So that it is not the whims of an individual that carry the day, it is the dictates of the constitution that carry the day.
Would it be better, for example, if the deputy president would have been assigned specific things to do that do not depend on the goodwill of the president?
I don't think so. I think, you know, you do not want a situation where if there is a challenge like the one that exists, you paralyze government, you know. It's okay that the president has done whatever he wanted to do, yeah, even though he didn't want to involve me. But I hope he has achieved whatever he wanted to do. I was surprised, however, the other day that he was complaining that he has failed to achieve certain things because of William Ruto. But I was always available.
There are people who say...
I mean, there are people who must have failed the president miserably. The people he has assigned those responsibilities.
Haven't you heard people say, Bwana DP, that there was a point at which it looked like a co-presidency, that the DP would go somewhere and say, serikali yangu na rais, that there was an impression that was created that there was competition within the presidency, and that part of that responsibility perhaps lies with you because of that impression that you created that the president was not the only president we had.
Can you be able to produce any place in any manner that I said anything to the effect that there was a co-presidency? I always, and I'm a very careful person, I always said either I've been sent by the president, I have always referred to the president as my boss, and it has always been clear.
So do you bear any responsibility for the dysfunction we've seen for the last 5 years?
Nothing. I don't bear any bit of responsibility.
Now supposing that you get elected in August, and somewhere down the road, 2 years, 3 years, you have a problem with your deputy, Bwana Rigathi Gachagua, for whatever reason, and you disagree completely, almost in the same manner that has happened right now, whichever direction it comes from. What are you going to do?
I want to tell you, Joe, that what you have said will never happen. It will not happen.
It doesn't just depend on you, sir.
I want to tell you that I will not allow, for example, my running mate or my deputy president to be humiliated by junior staff. I would not want a situation where clear responsibility. In fact, I have said it as much, and I have committed myself in writing that there are responsibilities my deputy will carry. Even when we had a vice president always chaired cabinet committees, always did certain things. And I want to promise you that my deputy president will be a very busy person.
But Bwana DP, many Kenyans will remember the relationship you had with President Kenyatta at the start. You wore the same sort of shirts. You interviewed CSS together. You did many things together.
I think you will not get very far, Joe, with this unless you go and ask Uhuru Kenyatta.
No. I'm asking the deputy president.
Because I have told you.
You are seeking to be president of Kenya.
Yes. I have told you what I will do with my deputy president. I have put it in writing that the first assignment
if he goes rogue, what would you do? Because you can't control what he will do.
The first assignment, if my deputy president goes rogue, there is the law. If he, for example, abuses his office, there is the law. The law will take its course. If he does things that are unconstitutional, there is a way a deputy president is dealt with by the law. But I want to promise you that I will do everything possible to make sure the deputy president's office, which is a constitutional office, is a functional office that serves the people of Kenya.
Great. And speaking of deputies, you have in the last few weeks named Mr. Rigathi Gachagua as your deputy. There's been quite a debate, and I'm sure you know that, around running mates in this country. Perhaps this would be a great time to shed light on why you settled on this gentleman.
Rigathi Gachagua is somebody I have known. Rigathi Gachagua is a very passionate leader. Rigathi Gachagua is a people's person. He speaks about the things that I speak about. He speaks about ordinary people. He's concerned about matters to do with farmers. He's concerned about the things that are dear to ordinary Kenyans. And the nexus between me and Rigathi Gachagua is the people. He believes in bottom up the way I do. And that is why I chose Rigathi Gachagua to work with me.
Now, on the 14th of May and even the 15th, there was a lot of talk coming out of this place about what was going on as you met with the various teams here and eventually came up with the running mate. And there was talk that basically everybody else favored someone else and you overruled them.
Well, those are stories. You know, there were many opinions. I had about 5 people I was looking at. And I took time to ask friends, to ask members of my party, and to ask other stakeholders what they thought, you know. And I engaged them because I believe in consultation. And I took time to consult. And the outcome, as you have seen, was finally Rigathi Gachagua. And the other candidates were very good people as well. Anne Waiguru, for example, is a wonderful lady. Alice Wahome is a wonderful lady. My good friend Abraham Kidure Kindiki is a wonderful gentleman. And Dindi Nyoro, the young man, is an upcoming great leader in Kenya. And all of them were great people. But there is always a chance for one person at a time. And that was Rigathi Gachagua at this
So
time.
Professor Kindiki, your good friend for many years and lawyer, said 3 days after this that he actually was favored by the Electoral College, that he had led in the opinion polls, but there were other considerations.
Precisely. There were so many other instruments that we were using, that I was using, you know, to try and arrive at... I looked at many things, you know. I looked at many aspects of what was required of a deputy president. And there are some that were favored by gender. There are some that were favored by opinion polls. There are some that were, when I met groups, this group favored a different person, another group favored a different person. But finally, we all settled as a team on Rigathi Gachagua. Because when Rigathi Gachagua appeared on Citizen TV that same night, he said that you picked him because he is a skilled mobilizer and could connect well with Mount Kenya. What's wrong with that? You see, why this, I mean, they say that the choice of running mate is one of the most important decisions a candidate makes, because if you get elected, Bwana DP, and God forbid something happens, this gentleman becomes our president. And I trust Rigathi Gachagua to carry the mantle. Yeah, that is why one would ask, solid gentleman. What are these things that would make him ready to take the reins of power in Kenya on day one? That gentleman is an accomplished public servant. He's a politician, self-made person. And what I like about him more is his passion for people issues. You know, that's really the challenge we have in our country. The challenge we have in Kenya is so much about leaders who are passionate about ordinary people. And Rigathi Gachagua is one of those Kenyans who is passionate about ordinary people. Now let's talk about the general election that we will have in less than 60 days. And you have been saying a number of things, but let me ask you a direct question. Do you believe that the elections that we will have on the 9th of August will be free and fair? I believe they will be free and fair, barring anything happening in between. You know, there's been all manner of attempts to derail that election. There's been a lot of, you know, talk, or, you know, William Ruto will not be in the ballot. How? Nobody tells you. Oh, William Ruto will not get to 2022. How? Nobody tells you. Okay. That, if I recall, was said by Francis Atwoli. Surely you wouldn't say that's an attempt to derail the elections. Why not? He is just another citizen. Anybody can say anything on the street. I mean, oh, you think so? So are you saying... Does Francis Atwoli have power to derail the elections? Are you saying Atwoli is a street person? Can he derail an election? I just want to be sure. Maybe I don't know some powers that he has. No, do you see him often around the powers that be? So you believe that Francis Atwoli can derail the election? Do you see him around the powers that be? Do you take that statement? I see you there too. Do you take those statements? Do you take those statements lightly, especially when they are said in front of the president? Do you think those statements should be taken lightly? But anyway, so we've moved on. There's been attempts to remove the IEBC commissioners, which again did not happen. There's been attempts to interfere with the voters' roll. When I said that close to 1 million voters were transferred this way, that way, people thought it was a story. But the IEBC has had to confirm that indeed there was an attempt, some voters were moved here and there. And in fact, some people, some officials of IEBC have been removed because of that attempt. But I
the IEBC itself, when at Bomas of Kenya, actually said that the audit had revealed those things, and that is why there's an audit. That's why they were dealing with it.
Absolutely.
And you actually said it was your supporters. I wonder how you knew that.
But when they told you that it was largely people in central Kenya and people in Rift Valley that were affected, what does that tell you?
Is that where your supporters are?
It doesn't
Is that
require.
where your supporters
It doesn't
are?
require rocket science.
Is that where your supporters are?
It doesn't require rocket
I've seen
science.
everybody campaigning in central Kenya. So would you say that if anything happens in the Rift Valley in central Kenya, that is William Ruto supporters?
Unless you don't live in Kenya. If you live in Kenya, you would know that.
The reason why I asked that, you have said many times that you are changing the politics, that
Yes.
you no longer play your politics with regions. You are playing your politics based on the economy, based on hustlers and all these people who are struggling to make it in life. And that's why one would be puzzled to think that you would see certain regions as your support bases.
It's you, the media, who keep saying that. I thought you are the ones who keep saying this is William Ruto region, this is so-and-so's region.
So you are confirming that Central and the
I'm
Rift
just
Valley are
saying
your
that-
regions?
I'm just saying what the media is saying.
You see, this is a serious thing, Wanadipi, because when a person of the deputy president's stature says that there is an attempt to move his supporters from different places to interfere with their place in the IEBC role, there really needs to be solid evidence. That's what I am really trying to drive
But that's what I'm telling you.
that they are your supporters.
The
that was targeted.
IEBC themselves have confirmed it.
They didn't confirm they were your supporters. They confirmed, yes, the audit revealed movements of voters, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you don't think they are my supporters, it's fine. If it's for me to think they are my supporters, then that's my opinion.
Because
You don't think they are my supporters? You don't think I have any?
I don't know who they are.
You
I don't know who
you
your
don't think I have any
supporters are.
supporters
because
in Central?
I don't know who your supporters are.
You don't think
sir.
I have any supporters in Rift Valley?
And that is the same thing I'm sure your competitors would say. They have supporters elsewhere, isn't it?
Okay, so I mean, it's for them to choose where they want, what they want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So you have said there are those attempts, but you've also said that nobody can steal your votes. What does that mean?
It just means that they cannot steal it. They've been trying to peddle stories left, right, and center. That, oh, you know, they have this thing called the deep state. They have this something called the system. And they have been busy. In fact, the only two frontiers my competitors now are left with to work their politics is to try and cook opinion polls and to try and spread this thing about stealing the election. That's the only thing they are left with. Everything else, they neither have an agenda, they neither have a program. Whatever they try to put together is faulty. It doesn't add up. Yeah? So what this election is about, Joe, you know, it's not about all these things people are talking about. This election is about the economy. This election is about the economy. And the only people with a plan on the economy is Kenya Kwanza.
At this stage,
And we have a credible plan. We have sold that plan to the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya have bought that plan. Our competitors try to plagiarize our plan. They try to take bits and pieces of our plan and try and cook something, but it's faulty.
and we'll talk about your plan in a moment, but the reason I think we need to discuss this issue of the safety of the election, because people have fought in this country before about the results of election, about the process. A whole presidential election has been nullified in the last election. So from where you sit, are you worried that something might go wrong with the election, that someone might interfere with the results of the election?
I am not worried that they will interfere, but they will attempt, but they will fail.
They will not succeed.
They have already made attempts, as I have told you, but they have not succeeded. I am very confident that finally, unless something drastic happens, we will have a credible election.
Now, one of the latest complaints from your party is involvement of cabinet secretaries in what you see as partisan politics. What is the problem?
You just need to read the law. The law is very clear on what cabinet secretaries can do and cannot do. In fact, that is why we have formally written so that, this is a country where you make choices. If you are a public servant in a certain category and you want to participate in politics, you just do the right thing. But if the law says you cannot support any side in an election, that's the law.
But they also,
unless you change the law.
They're also quoting the law. They are saying that the Leadership and Integrity Act, Section 23, says an appointed state officer other than a cabinet secretary or a member of a county executive committee shall not, in the performance of their duties, act as agents of a political party and all of that. And they're saying that there is an exemption in the law. So the argument we're having here is where you say the law is clear, but they're also saying this is the law, and they're reading the Leadership and Integrity.
So are you arguing on their behalf?
No. I am just making sure that what we are saying is actually accurate.
But you see, what we have done, we've done the formal thing. We have written to the institutions. Let the institutions interpret. Let the institutions tell us this is what the law says. But we have given them what the law says, and to the best of our knowledge, let them do the right thing. If the law says this or the other, the institutions that are charged with that responsibility will take action either way.
Now, in 2017, Raila Odinga, who was then your competitor from the opposition, made the exact same complaints about cabinet secretaries getting involved in politics. And I remember very clearly, there's a famous statement you made, wachana na Matiang'i, ukitaka kubishana, bishana na mimi na Rais Kenyatta. So was it right then? What has changed? Or how could it have been right then?
You need to contextualize what the situation was at that point in time. Yeah? We need to contextualize what the situation was at that point in time, Joe. And I think we are, to the best of my knowledge, we are now discussing trivialities. I think the most important thing that the people of Kenya want to make is they want to understand the choices they have in this election. I think really, Joe,
you're running for
president. We would spend this time better if the people of Kenya can understand from William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza what is in it for the Kenyan people. That's precisely why we've gone bottom up, because always the discussions we have in this space is about us. It's about William Ruto and Raila Odinga and the big boys. Where is the Kenyan person in this?
You see where the Joe, Kenyan is, sir.
I think
where the Kenyan is.
Where we need to go with this interview, quite honestly, is for the ordinary person watching me. They want to know, William Ruto wants to be president. What is in it for me? Because politics is about interest.
But they also want to know why.
Let me tell you, Joe.
Why you were supporting this the other time, and now you're opposed to it. Isn't that something they want to know?
Even Jesus Christ, if I can, I know you are a good Christian. In Matthew, I think 17:29, his disciples, when they were following him, they asked him, we have left our families. We have left our businesses. We used to be fishermen. We've come to follow you. What is in it for us? Disciples of Jesus Christ. The people of Kenya wants to know also, as they go to the ballot, what is in it for them? And really, I think we would do a lot of service to those people if we discussed what is in it for the people who will wake up early in the morning.
I understand
to
that,
go
sir.
And vote.
And we will discuss that.
The quarrel between William Ruto and Raila Odinga and Matiang'i and I don't know who, this is neither here nor there.
Isn't this about integrity of leadership? That something was okay 5 years ago, And right now it is not. And I think the Kenyan people would be confused that if William Ruto said it was okay for Matiang'i and Mucheru to campaign.
Please let us, you know, because we don't have the whole of that context here. You know, you're bringing, you're jettisoning something into this discussion. We need to look at the context. What was the context of my statement that
They didn't campaign?
What was the context of that, of my statement in that situation?
They were
And what am I saying today? I am not saying it's my word versus theirs. I am saying let's follow the law. It doesn't matter what it was 5 years ago. If the law, if a wrong or two wrongs do not amount to a right, you know, if it was wrong then, it is wrong now.
Do you regret supporting them then?
Supporting who?
Matiang'i and Mucheru
I
being
don't
involved?
remember. I don't even remember what the statement you're talking to me about. You needed to have told me in advance so that I can refresh myself. What was the context? What did I say? It was in what situation? But you know, unless you just want to fault me to say I was right then, or I'm trying to be wrong today, or what are you trying to say?
Now, one of the other things that have come up is the whole thing of NIS. I heard you talk about it the other day. You've also written about it because these are issues related to the election.
Are we ever going to talk about the real issues of this election?
Yes, we will.
Or we are going to discuss
Yes,
NIS and the ministers? And let me tell you, Joe, let me be honest with you, with a lot of respect. I want to discuss bottom up.
And you will.
I want the people of Kenya to understand how is their life going to change. You know? Because, and let me tell you, the reason why I have taken time, for example, to go to every county and listen in what I am calling an economic forum in every county is because for a very long time we have made politics the business of the elite. My good brother, it's time that that ordinary Kenyan comes to the middle of the equation. And that is why this election is about the economy. This election, the face of that economy is that Mamaboga. The day, my good brother, we begin to discuss the things that will lift the 15 million Kenyans who today are struggling. The day we began that discussion, and that's where I want to go, I want to have that discussion. Because that's how we are going to change the fortunes of our country.
And if the elections go wrong, because these are things you've been raising because you think they could interfere with the elections,
I have told
then
you,
the views of that person will not be
for
expressed
the last 15
in the
minutes, I have told you, there will be attempts around the election, but I am confident that nothing will go wrong.
So let's talk about a bit, because we haven't, we have reports that your manifesto will come on the 30th of this month. Some people say that's a bit late.
It's not late.
I will not have
because,
time to interrogate it for just 1 month before the election.
I have been having that conversation over the last 2 years. I decided to change the frame of the political discourse of our country. For a very long time, we went and sat in a boardroom with technocrats and people in ties, and we cooked something, and we went to the people of Kenya and told them, oh, we are going to do this for you, and we're going to do this for you, and we're going to do the other. And that's why we've never gotten it right. I decided this time round that we are going to begin at the bottom. We are going to have a conversation with ordinary people. We are going to ask them about their issues. We are going to ask them about their concerns. We are going to discuss with them about what they think is the priorities that will change their lives. And it's amazing, simply amazing, how Kenyans understand their issues and what kind of great ideas they have on how we can get Kenya to the next level. I have benefited, my team has benefited from immense contribution, ideas, suggestions, proposals from ordinary Kenyans. We are gradually getting to a people's manifesto, a manifesto that will reflect what ordinary people would want change in their country. And they basically, we've basically converged them into about 4 broad areas. One area is the transformation of agriculture. That is a big space. And for your information, the transformation of agriculture will create jobs, create incomes, improve our foreign exchange, and it will put money in very many people's pockets. And what are we saying? For example, we are talking about how we are going to transform that space in agriculture. This is a plan President Uhuru Kenyatta and I had in our Big Four plan. Unfortunately, when the handshake came, that whole Big Four plan fell apart. And that's why even when you had the president discuss on his last day of Madaraka, there was no mention of Big Four because it blew up and disappeared. So what we are doing about transformation of agriculture is, number one, increasing the productivity of our farmers. They have told us in every place that they want to increase their production, for example, of milk. On average, they produce 2 kilos. They can produce 10. And they have told us the problem is the cost of feed. In Busia, Kakamega, and other areas, they have told us we are able to grow soya. We are able to grow simsim. We are able to grow sunflower. Give us a market. The market is right there. The market is in animal feed, which uses many of these products. So what is required is just a connection between the people growing soya and the people using soya for animal feed.
But would it have been great for us to have, as a people in this country, to have had that concretized in your manifesto so that people can interrogate how you pay for it and everything? Because right now it is it's a conversation that we don't know whether it will be ultimately in that document, because mostly what the manifesto is this is what I'm presenting to you as Kenyan people, interrogate it. This is the basis upon which you elect me. But here, if we have only 1 month to look at it,
no, let me tell you,
that as unfair?
This conversation is not a 1-month conversation. I decided to make it a 1-year conversation. We've been having this conversation with Kenyans in every county. What will happen on 30th is that we will just put it together, the ideas that Kenyans have already put in there, and it will reflect what they want done for their country. And for your information, I am going to sign a county charter, county by county, on what their priorities will be, on the investment areas they want us to invest in. And for every county, I will have a county charter so that whatever we have agreed, which road are we going to build that is going to change their economic fortunes? Which investment, like for example, we were in Nyandarua the other day, the cold rooms they want for their horticulture, the cold rooms they want for their potatoes, the factory they want for their milk. That is the conversation, and that is what is going to change Kenya for the better.
Let's talk about a charter that you have already signed, because we saw you at the Nyayo Stadium the other day with a section of Kenyan women, and you signed a charter there. And one of the most spectacular things over there is the issue of 2/3 gender, and you say that you will ensure that's implemented in 100 days. That's staggering. How are you going to do that?
The women asked me that I must have, what I signed is we must have a formula in 90 days. We must have the how in 90 days. I believe it can be done in 12 months. We will have the how, we will have the mechanism put in place. In fact, that's the word. We will have the mechanism, and within 12 months, we should be able to actualize the two-thirds gender.
We've tried for 20 years. There have been the Chepkonga Committee, there's been Judici Jenny, there's been Duale 1, Duale 2. We've never made it. What is this magic? What is this trick that you will have a formula in 90 days?
We will have a formula in 90
days.
days.
We've had gallant efforts, so much so that there was a time that those efforts in Parliament were supported by yourself, by President Kenyatta, by Raila Odinga, and still it didn't come. What is this thing that will happen?
My good brother Joe, when I make a commitment, I think through it. I have made that commitment to the women of Kenya. I intend to deliver.
Do you have some snippets of what
in 12 months
that formula might look
like?
There
are already several steps that we've done. There is a Cholet bill that is already in the offing that provides a mechanism, even without having to change the constitution, that we can accommodate women leadership and attain the two-thirds gender rule. I have made a commitment, for example, that to even kick off that journey, I will be appointing, by God's grace, half the cabinet to come from women. There are several other administrative interventions that can be done to enhance and to actualize the two-thirds gender rule in public appointments, in elective appointments. That is a possibility. It's not far-fetched. And beyond that, we are looking at the whole array of women. How do women are the majority at the bottom of the pyramid. I have, for example, said of the 50 billion yearly fund that will be for micro and small enterprises, 50%, 25 billion, will be used for women-owned enterprises.
Aren't you oversimplifying a very complex thing? Because you are a great advocate of separation of powers between the president and the legislature, the executive and the legislature. And here you are talking about something that is stuck in Parliament, so much so that even an advisory came for Parliament to be dissolved. What guarantee do you have that you will have such control on Parliament that you can actually make them do something about what is a constitutional provision which we have failed to implement in 10 years?
My good brother, I have been around for a while. And I know, for example, that Parliament is made of reasonable people. The level of engagement and commitment and passion of a leader makes a whole difference. It is possible to persuade Parliament to do many things. Let me give you an example. We persuaded Parliament, and I sat in my tent outside here, and we persuaded Parliament to make the law, to make it much more difficult for people, for parties to have a bigger say in how to manage political elections. The members of Parliament agreed. They passed the law, you know. So it's possible to persuade. What is required is political goodwill, political passion to achieve certain things. And I want to tell you.
Has that been lacking
that,
since 2013?
That a William Ruto president will deliver on the two-thirds gender rule.
Are you saying that goodwill, political goodwill, has been the problem in delivering what the Kenyan women have looked for this many years?
I don't want to get into an argument about that, but I have told you what I will do.
Okay, let's talk about your campaign, because you have been campaigning for some time, as you said. And you have been deputy president for all of 9 years.
Yes.
And there are many times that you will talk about some of the things that you've achieved.
Yes.
There are many times you criticize things that have happened or not happened. What part of the Jubilee record do you take responsibility for?
The one I have been responsible for.
Which is?
let me give you, there are three, there are
Is it the
four,
first?
No,
the
no,
first
there are four
term,
things.
The first term, the second
four
term?
things President Uhuru Kenyatta and I set out to achieve. Number one, in my boardroom here, the boardroom in this wall, behind this wall, we sat down with the Ministry of Roads. And I remember asking the question to Michael Kamau, our first CS for roads, when we were interviewing him, what he is going to do to reduce the cost of road construction. I remember asking him in the interview. I know Michael Kamau is listening somewhere in Kenya today, and he will confirm. They sat in my boardroom here. We sat here many hours with Michael Kamau, engineer, with Mosonic engineer, with engineers from Kera, and we worked it out, and we set out to achieve 10,000 kilometers of tarmac. You heard the president say, we achieved 11,000. We worked with it, and in fact, I can tell you that the decision to change, to create different categories of road construction was made in my boardroom here.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we decided that we were going to increase our electricity generation and connection. Again, I can confirm to you that we spent many hours with the Ministry of Energy. Of course, with the concurrence of my boss in my boardroom here, to work it out with Charles Keter, Engineer Njoroge, and others. And finally, and the MD called Chuma. Finally, we crafted a mechanism that gave us the opportunity to increase our electricity connection from 2.3 million shillings in 2013 to almost 8.9 million connections today. We made the decision against the background that I had come from the Ministry of Higher Education, that we were going to change our education profile so that we move more people towards technical education. This is a program I had started at the Ministry of Higher Education when I was there for about a year. And that program has now seen people in TVET, students in TVET, grow from 89,000 in 2013 to now close to 500,000 this year. I can tell you, I participated in that program. In fact, that program was largely run from my office with the concurrence of my boss. I can also tell you, we did many other projects together.
So which part of this record do you take responsibility? Which part would you say you can't own? Because there are people who say, how can you cherry pick only the successes and not own up to the failure of the Jubilee administration? Because right now, if anybody came from another world into this country, they would think that you are an opposition candidate. You've never been in this government that is currently there.
What I have a problem with, I have stated. You know, we sat down again with my good friend Uhuru Kenyatta. Long hours with technocrats, with advisors, with foreign experts to craft the Big Four, right? The Big Four was essentially to build on the platform we had crafted in our first term. And the Big Four was supposed to achieve three major things. Number one, to ensure that we deliberately create jobs for our young people. That's why we had the housing program there. We deliberately worked on agricultural transformation, which we were saying agriculture and food nutrition. Again, to sort out the challenge of high cost of living. You know today, Joe, that on average, Kenyans spend 52% of their income on food. It is the single biggest expenditure on the people of Kenya. So reducing the cost of food is a major plank in ensuring that this country grows. Yeah. So that was supposed to be achieved. It did not happen. The third issue was universal health coverage. You know, unfortunately, after the handshake, and I've said it, And I've said it before.
You have
after the handshake, I mean, the whole thing changed.
You've talked a lot about the handshake.
We started to hear, oh, you know, that's not a priority. You know, the priority now is to change the constitution and do all the manner of things we did. And we spent so much time, we spent so much energy, we deployed so much passion in that direction. And unfortunately, it didn't get anywhere.
But Bonadipi, you would understand when people have a problem with you basically owning to the good things that happened, yet we saw corruption in the first term of Jubilee, where you were a key player. That time you were the real deputy president, as you said, because you were listened to. What part of responsibility would you take for the mega corruption that happened in the first term, whether it was NYS, whether it was the county medical equipment scheme, whether it was the Hustlers Jet, as they called it, whether it was...
the Hustlers Jet is a creation, creation of the media. There was no Hustler Jet corruption. There was nothing.
Well, Edward
it was investigated by everybody.
The Auditor General released a report. Yeah. But even if you were to talk about that, the Auditor General himself said of that 5 years that 30% of the budget could not be accounted for. Surely, what part of responsibility would you take for the bad things that happened in those 5 years?
Let me tell you, Joe. A lot has been said about what happened that time, right? Many of which is what was said conveniently to try and blame it on William Ruto. The dams issue, for example. The dams issue today, are you aware, Joe, that the project of Aror and Kenware has never been cancelled? Despite the hula baloo and the talk of corruption and the talk of everything, it is still a live contract, because there was absolutely nothing wrong with Kimwarer. It was signed alongside all the other programs. So what I'm trying to tell you is, okay, the
statement that was released by the government,
we are being told
about those dams,
that absolutely.
The statement that was released by the government said that they were neither technically nor financially viable. That is what even the president himself, the statement that came from SETA.
If the statement by government is true, why hasn't the contract been cancelled?
You should tell me. You are part of that government. I don't work in government. You are part of that government.
Your answer is of course as good as mine.
So what I'm saying, sir, is this. Are you saying that William Ruto can only take credit for the things that worked in the Jubilee administration, but is totally a stranger to all the corruption and the scandals?
I take credit for what I know I did. Yeah, and it's justified, because I worked on it, long hours. You know, you cannot deny me what we achieved, because that's an achievement we made. And it's not just we achieved.
What happened to collective responsibility?
We worked on it. We worked on it together, right? But the question I ask you, Joe, because it's also good for you to understand. We have been with the handshake government now for 4.5 years. But I heard my competitor say the other day, they still lose 2 billion shillings a day. So, you know, the money was stolen from KEMSA. The COVID billionaires are walking around. They are the ones financing the Azimio campaign. They are the beneficiaries are sitting in the Azimio campaign. What is all that? What is going on there? You know, and I want to tell you, Joe, there is a lot of smoke screen, you know, going on in Kenya to try and derail the real issues that will inform this campaign. And I want to tell you, the real issues that will inform this campaign are, number one, who has the plan to reduce the cost of living? Who has the plan to create jobs for the 4-5 million Kenyan young people who have certificates, diplomas, and degrees, who are walking our streets? who has the plan to improve the earnings of the 10 million people who are joining the 700,000 Kenyans who are joining the lottery every year to go and hustle, make 100 shillings, 200 shillings a day in a game of guesswork? Who has the plan to bring that together?
But does that plan also come with the issue of trust, which is what I'm talking about here? In 2013, Jubilee made many promises, and many Kenyans have talked about that issue, for example, of the stadiums that you promised so eloquently. Talked about...
the stadium is the only thing you can talk about.
We'll not do five... No,
why don't you talk about the roads we promised we deliver?
No, let's talk about the stadiums for a moment, because that was never done.
We are going to talk about the stadiums.
That was never done.
We are going to talk about the stadiums. Of about 7 issues we promised, we delivered 6. Maybe the stadiums delayed. But I want to tell you, the stadium today in Meru is complete. The stadium today in Tharaka Nithi is complete. Many of the other stadia are actually complete. So,
when I was coming here, someone called me to ask about Kamarin.
Kamarin Stadium is not yet complete. Eldoret is not yet complete. And it's because of delay of payment. But of all the other promises, we delivered on the roads, we delivered on electricity, we delivered on matters to do with TVETs. We have largely delivered. The place that I want to tell you, I regret.
That was going to be my question.
But we have not delivered.
Do you regret making that promise?
That we have not delivered is on the big 4. That's where we've not delivered.
Now let's talk about...
And it's really something that I am very passionate about, because that is where the real transformation of our country would be. And that is why, Joe, today, as I sit here with you, and as millions of young people in Kenya listen to William Ruto, I want to tell them, we have a plan on making sure that the millions of young people out of school, it is possible for the government of Kenya, it is possible for us to build sufficient programs, deliberate, not guesswork, deliberate programs on creating jobs using housing, using agro-processing, using value addition, and the whole array of manufacturing. And I have clearly spoken to areas that we will invest and we will create those jobs. The biggest problem we have is that those people who sabotaged the big 4, sabotaged our housing plan, sabotaged our plan on value addition, is because they want a situation where we have all these desperate young people. They become easy to manipulate, and that is why today you have this kazi mtaani thing. You know, it's really insulting to the young people of our nation that you sabotage the program of housing and value addition that would have given them decent jobs. And then, because there is an election, you have now rolled out a kazi mtaani thing. You want to pay young people, I don't know, 1,000 shillings. I hear now it's not even 1,000. Somebody has run away with 500. They have remained with 400 and something. Really?
Now
is that really what you want?
Those are very serious allegations, and if they are
true, if they are true, that's true.
They relate to something I want us to talk
about. Are you aware that the Kazi Mtaani thing is being rolled out? It is in the public domain.
Yeah, it's been going on.
But no, it's not been going on. It's being rolled out now. It is because there is an election, and because there are people who have real contempt.
But in fairness, Bwana DP, the Kazi Mtaani thing has been going on for a while. It's
no. You live in Kenya, my friend. It stopped years ago. It has just been started now.
It has been resumed. But let's talk about corruption, because you seem to be alluding to it. That, I mean, corruption is a big issue in the country, and even the other day when you had a meeting with the EU delegation, you actually talked about it very eloquently.
Correct.
What is the most radical thing you will do to deal with corruption if Kenyans elect you in August?
3 things. Number 1, I will make sure that on day 1, I will operationalize the judiciary fund. The judiciary fund will do the following. The judiciary fund has not been operationalized because there are people who want to keep the judiciary on a short leash. The judiciary fund will give the judiciary the latitude, the resources, the capacities to hire staff, as many judges as they want, as many magistrates as there are for them to do a good job. It will give them the opportunity to get justice delivered in a shorter time, whether they are corruption cases, whether they are whatever cases. Corruption case that takes 14 years, 15 years is not a corruption case. You know, corruption cases should be delivered sooner and faster and much more efficiently. The judiciary fund will do that. Number two, I will make sure that the whole chain of the criminal justice system, starting from the EACC, the DCI, the IG, have operational and they have financial independence. Today, there is absolutely no reason why the IG has got to go and kneel before the PS office of the president for them to be funded. There is absolutely no reason. The law says the IG should be given an accounting officer, an independent budget where the executive should be able to demand, where Kenyans actually should be able to demand from them, why hasn't this happened? Why hasn't this happened? But because there are people who want to control what the DCR does, what the EACC does, what the IG does, you control it by using money, that we are going to fund you as long as you do X, Y, and Z. And number three, Joe, I will step back. The reason, and build the institutions.
What does step back mean?
I mean, step back from interfering, you know. In fact, there is only one thing that Chief Justice, and I've said this before, Chief Justice Mutunga said that he was very happy with Mwai Kibaki. The phone in his office never rang. Yeah? Because the president allowed him to do his job. Let me tell you.
Would you appoint those six judges that were...
Of course, day one, I will. I will appoint them. Let me tell you, the reason why even presidents in a place like Korea, even prime ministers in a place like Israel are taken to court is when institutions are working. That is when everybody is held to account. But when the president is the one giving us lectures on who he will arrest and who will charge and who will do what, it means he himself is untouchable.
There are people who listen.
We must build the institutions so that the institutions make sure they deliver on their mandate.
There are people who listen to you tonight, Bwana DP, and they will ask, is this the same person who has spoken in a certain way about the judiciary? I mean, for example, many people remember when they nullified the election, some of the things you said were to sita wanakaa mahali, overturning the will of the people. Yet that's something that the Constitution mandates them to do if they so see fit, depending on the evidence they have. What assurance do you have today that you actually respect the judiciary when in the past there have been statements that suggested that you actually did not hold it in such high regard?
Let me tell you, when you respect an institution, you don't worship an institution. You respect an institution. And Paul Muite once told me a very fundamental principle when I first came into Parliament. Paul Muite found me in Parliament when I came there first time in 1998. And I was a very fervent supporter of KANU then. He told me, young man, when you support a party or when you support a government, you criticize it when it goes wrong, right? That does not amount to disrespect.
Did they go wrong in 2017?
That does not amount. I hold it that we won the election fairly, you know? And it is okay for anybody to criticize the judiciary. It doesn't mean that you don't respect the judiciary. Yeah. We criticized, I spoke the way I spoke, but I am the first person who told President Uhuru Kenyatta we must go back to the election.
I think what was
I led the team that went back to the repeat election, because much as I disagree with the judiciary, I respect the judiciary, and that is why
I think what was worrying then
was
was not whether you disagree with their decision. It was more about questioning whether they actually have power to overturn an election, because you said 6 people overturning the
But criticism,
views.
what is criticism, Joe? I mean, I didn't agree with them, you know, but that does not mean I didn't respect their decision. Those are two different things. Because I was very sure that we won the election free and square. But my criticism of the judiciary is because we want a strong institution, right? But it doesn't mean the same thing as not respecting their decision. I criticized them, but I respected their decision, and we went back to the election and won.
Now, here's the other question that I think will come with regard to this question of corruption. There are people who are closely associated with you who have been implicated in corruption. Some have ongoing cases, including your running mate. Are you going to let them out there to hang, if that is what it comes to? Because I imagine that these cases will proceed even after the election.
If they are culpable, my friend, if they are culpable, and that's why I'm telling you, the institutions we want to build, the freedom we want to give to the judiciary, the freedom we want to give to the criminal justice system, the financial independence we want to give to them, is so that they can prosecute anybody, including the president, if they abuse the constitution or if they are corrupt. It is the only chance we have in Kenya. The reason why...
So if your deputy today, because he has many cases that are going on,
yes,
is found culpable, are you telling the Kenyan people today that you will actually let him continue with that case after you get elected, if you are?
Why not?
And then if he needs to be jailed and all that?
Why not? I mean, that's the law. And that's why I'm telling you the difference between us and our competitors is that our competitors today, as I speak to you, the COVID billionaires can never be taken to court. The president told us 21 days. But because they are people who are friends, who are relatives.
Who are these people? You've been talking about them.
You know as much as I do.
How would I know?
Yeah,
you are the deputy president. You are the deputy president. I'm not. But if you are saying tonight,
if you don't know, Joe, then the reason why they have not been prosecuted should be sufficient evidence for you to know who they are.
There are many people who have not been prosecuted for many years in this country, Bwana DP.
So that's why I'm telling you.
My question is, as a DP,
as long as the fight against corruption is political or is such that friends of so-and-so, relatives of so-and-so, acquaintance of so-and-so cannot be prosecuted, we will lose the
you are on record as saying, for example, that the cases against your running mate are political. You said that many times.
The way, and unless it is proven otherwise by a court of law.
And here you're saying that you will actually allow them to proceed.
And they will proceed. If they have merit, they will succeed. If they are political, as I say, they will fail. So that's the fundamental difference between us and our competitors. Our competitors believe that the fight against corruption should be by individuals against whoever they don't want. Our difference is that we will get the institutions to deal with a matter of corruption and deal with everybody, whether they are our relatives, whether they are our friends, whether he is my deputy, whether it is the president or whoever. Nobody should be safe from corruption. The institutions should be made in such a way, and that is what I intend to do. I will make sure that the Chief Justice and the judiciary have the financial independence to be able to discharge their responsibility. The criminal justice system don't have to report to the office of the president. We will give them their financial independence. We will give them an accounting officer. We will give them a budget to run with, and they will do whatever they think whatever they think is right, and whatever is given to them as mandate by the Constitution and the law. That is the only chance, Joe, we have to fight corruption and succeed in fighting corruption.
Now, because we are almost running out of time, what happens to William Ruto if he does not win the election in August?
Before we go there, Joe, let me explain first two things. Number one, I have said clearly, as part of what I and my team intend to achieve, is to sort out three things. Number one, we need to sort out the youth unemployment. It's a ticking time bomb. We are sending close to 600,000 young people, energetic, educated, into a lottery, and they don't know what to do. They get involved in odd jobs. They are earning between 100, 200 shillings. We need to sort it out. And this is how we're going to sort it out. Number one, we are going to invest in deliberate government programs like housing, like agro-processing, for example, at the EPZ, to make sure that we create jobs for these young people. Number two, the 10 million or so people today in the informal sector, the micro, and who earn 100, 200 shillings, we will make sure that we do three things. Number one, we make sure that we organize where they do their hustles. Number two, we make sure that the law protects their hustles. And number three, we make them access credit. Credit is the biggest undoing of small businesses. I spoke to a woman, for example, and I told you this, in Ruaraka, Shiko. She was in fact in the meeting of the women the other day. They pay close to 3,600% a year to access credit. Those are the people we want to save from Shylocks and from all these, Fuliza and all this. So accessing credit, what will accessing credit do to them? If they just access credit at even the current rates of 10%, those ordinary 10 million Kenyans, we will move them from earning 200 shillings to earning 500 shillings a day. This economy in 10 years will double. What are we going to do? We are going to make sure, for example, that we sort out the whole space of health by making sure that we conceptualize and drive universal health coverage. Today, you, Joe, in the middle class, you are the people who, in your SMS, you are sent bills, or pay for us this, 10,000, 20,000, 10,000, 20,000, because people cannot afford. We are going to structure. We have gone through it. I have serious professionals who have gone through it. We are spending 550 billion shillings every year on health, 300 billion on primary health, and 250 on the other categories. We will make sure that every Kenyan, including you, Joe, who today pay insurance, we will remove those exclusions that you can only access, you cannot be treated for cancer, you cannot be treated for this. We will remove the exclusions, and we will make sure that there are no out of pocket. Nobody will go to hospital to be asked to pay money. Everybody will have a card that will access health for them, and we have structured how it's going to be paid. Last, we are going to make sure that we bring down the cost of living. It's hurting everybody. It is partly what is contributing to debt in our country. How are we going to do that? I've had, for example, my competitor say that he is going to spend 140 billion shillings paying handouts to people every year. I need only 30 billion shillings to make sure that the same 2 million people, he's talking about 2 million people, the same 2 million people, if I have 2 million farmers, I need 30 billion shillings, and I can improve them from harvesting 2 bags to harvesting 10 bags by just giving them 15,000 each one of them. They will be able to produce food. They will have extra money in their pocket, and we will make a huge transformation in our agriculture. If we just, let me just finish. If we just pay, if we just ensure that our dairy farmers who are producing today 5 billion liters, We can double that to 10 billion liters simply by making sure that they have access to animal feed. That we have structured using the economic fora we have gone through in Kenya.
Yeah.
And if we just export just a bit of that milk, we should be able to get an extra 100 billion shillings every year just from milk export out of Kenya, which we have a ready market. Yeah. Let me tell you, Joe, the moment to transform Kenya is now. Yeah. It is not tomorrow. I have talked, for example, about transforming the Juakali sector into our manufacturing hub. And I have talked even about... And
we need to finish because, we do not have the benefit of your manifesto, which would have been great because you have the
Kenyans have been going through it.
Yeah. So we need to finish.
So Joe, I've talked about that whole manufacturing. That Juakali sector is now doing 3 million jobs. We can take that to 10 million. Speaking to the subject of the whole of that array, the furniture array, the furniture space, the textile space, the leather space, that is huge scope that will create jobs, it will create wealth, it will put money in people's pockets. And it is so different from what our competitors are saying. Our competitors are condescending. They are talking about banning Mitumba. This is a whole different mindset. It's what people think about other people. You think about other people and you don't think they are business.
To be fair about a DP, at least they have a document. So it would be great when yours is there so that we can look at interrogate the figures.
I will interrogate the figures. Let me say one last thing.
Yes, please.
Many people ask, where will William Ruto find the money to fund this program that he has? Number one, the bottom-up approach creates more taxpayers, right? Without increasing any tax, the bottom-up approach creates more taxpayers, number one. Number two, it also enables the middle class, right? It secures the middle class. When you have more people with income, with capital at the bottom, then they can buy more. The jobs in the middle class are much more secure if, for example, if you are working as a manager in Coca-Cola, the more people can afford your product. If you are working in Farmer's Choice, the more people can afford your product, the more secure your job is. Okay. We are also, when we are talking about creating jobs using housing, we are actually looking at the middle class benefiting from owning houses. Those houses we are building using the bottom are actually houses that will be available, and we have worked out a program where mortgage we can move our mortgage from the current 30,000 to about 2 million people to own homes. Yeah. We have thought about that. And lastly, by just eliminating conflict of interest and state capture, we can move our tax from 1.6 trillion we are collecting today to 3 trillion. How do we do it, Joe? How will I do it? I have thought through this, and I have worked with people through this. VAT, for example, we are collecting 3.6% of our GDP. Rwanda is collecting 8% of their GDP. South Africa is collecting about 11% of their GDP. What do we need to do? Automate, digitize. If we digitize VAT collection, we will move our VAT from 450 billion to 900, maybe a trillion in just 1 year, right?
Yeah. So
if we let me just finish. By so moving our numbers in VAT, we will also move our numbers in corporate tax by another almost 300 billion. So what we collected last year, 1.6 trillion. Maybe this year, 1.8 trillion. In 2 years, I can be able to move that money from 1.8 trillion to 3 trillion. So I will have more money to run my programs. I will have more money to pay debt. And there will be nothing like restructuring debt.
I really feel disadvantaged here because
25%
you have the figures in your head, but I don't have the
are
benefit
foreign.
of
75 is local.
Yeah.
So talking about restructuring is being reckless. And I want to tell you, Joe, these are things that I am passionate about. That's why I requested you earlier. Yeah. We should have talked about these things earlier. These are the things that I am passionate about. These are the things that will change Kenya. And I want to promise you, Kenyans do not have the luxury to again engage in a game of guesswork.
Okay,
with people who do not have a plan,
we really have to finish.
People who have no track record of doing nothing. And I want to tell you, Joe,
we really have to
I am really looking forward to another interview where we can
when
start,
you launch your manifesto. When you launch your manifesto, because then I can have the figures.
Where we can start where we have ended.
Right now, I don't have the figures. You've thrown out 20 figures, and I really don't have the advantage of interrogating them because they are not in context. But I really, really appreciate that. Finally, could you answer my question? If you do not win in August.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. If I will not win in August, Joe, I now have grandchildren also, right? And I will be satisfied. You know, very many Kenyans, millions of Kenyans have not gotten to be deputy president. I really thank God that I have gotten very far. From where I came from, this is very satisfying, being deputy president of Kenya, you know, against all odds. You know, it is something that I consider a huge achievement. And I will be a very satisfied Kenyan that I did my best. I served my country. And it's for Kenyans to decide what happens. And if they so decide, I will support whoever will have been elected and be part and parcel of the Kenyan society.
Is there any circumstance under which you would not accept the result of the election?
I want to promise you that I will organize no demonstration. I will not pull down any railway. That's what I promise you. If there will be any contest of an election, for whatever reason,